chosen one. You are not reading this by accident. Your soul has been led here, not by coincidence, but by divine orchestration. Something has shifted around you quietly, and without noise, yet its impact will echo through every area of your life. What happened was not random. It was sacred. It was strategic. And this message is your confirmation. A snake has been removed. Not all departures are losses. Some are divine rescues, disguised as breakups, disconnections, or silence. You did not push them away. Heaven pulled them back. You were not abandoned. You were shielded. Even if your mind is still trying to make sense of what happened, your spirit already knows a weight has lifted. The atmosphere around you feels different. Your peace, once elusive, is starting to return, and that is not your imagination. It is a sign. As C.S. Lewis wrote in letters to Malcolm chiefly on prayer, "We may ignore, but we can nowhere evade the presence of God. The world is crowded with him. He walks everywhere, incognito." This truth illuminates the subtle shift you've experienced. The quiet removal of this person was not mere chance, but the incognito hand of God orchestrating your protection. His presence, ever watchful, has shielded you from a danger you sensed but could not name, confirming that this separation was a sacred act of divine intervention. You are the chosen one, not because you were the strongest, not because you were flawless, but because your calling required a level of separation that others could not survive. The divine did not choose you for comfort. You were chosen for clarity. You were chosen to carry something rare, and that requires the removal of what cannot go with you. You may not have realized it yet, but something was removed to protect your future. Someone who stood too close, but whose heart stood too far. Someone who appeared supportive, but whose spirit was slowly siphoning your light. This is not a message of loss. It is a message of liberation. What just happened in your life is not punishment. It is preparation, and your soul already knows this to be true. You do not need to carry guilt for loving deeply. That love was never the problem. Giving people chances was never your weakness. But continuing to invite what heaven has removed, that is where the delay begins. And heaven could not allow that anymore. That is why the separation occurred without chaos. No fight, no explosion, just a quiet shift in atmosphere and a silent severing of access. It was mercy, not mess. This is your soul's confirmation. That inner knowing you couldn't explain, it was real. That sudden lightness in your spirit, it's proof. This was not just a relationship ending. It was a spiritual extraction, and now you are standing at the threshold of your next season, lighter, clearer, and finally free to move forward. What comes next will require your full focus, your full energy, and your full discernment. That's why the removal had to happen first. Something has already occurred quietly, powerfully, and without your full awareness. You didn't see it at first because heaven often moves in silence to protect what is sacred. While your heart was still trying to hold on, the divine was already releasing. A shift took place behind the scenes. A spiritual transaction was completed. Someone was removed not to punish you but to preserve you. This person did not simply drift away. They were pulled out of your life by divine force. It may have looked like distance, disagreement, or a slow unraveling, but in the spirit, it was surgical, clean, intentional. You were not ready to sever the tie, so heaven did it for you. Because what's ahead of you could not afford their interference. You didn't know how much of your growth they were quietly stalling. You didn't see how their energy was distorting the clarity of your path. But heaven saw it all and acted swiftly. They were never meant to go where you were going. Their spirit was out of alignment with your destiny, even if their words pretended otherwise. And though their smile seemed sincere, their presence had become a blockade to your elevation. Their access was not just emotional, it was spiritual. They had access to your thoughts, your plans, your vulnerabilities, and slowly, unknowingly, they became a delay. You were praying for breakthrough, crying out for direction, asking for clarity, for momentum, for favor. But every time heaven tried to release it, their energy rooted in jealousy, pride, or hidden control blocked the flow. So God removed the blockage, without argument, without drama, without warning, not to hurt you, but to heal the road ahead. This shift may not feel final yet, but it is. That connection has been severed in the spirit, and no matter how familiar their presence was, they are no longer tethered to your path. What you feel right now, the lightness, the clarity, the strange silence, is not emptiness. It's divine alignment. You did not lose a person. You were delivered from a hindrance. And from this point forward, nothing will ever delay your calling again. They came cloaked in closeness, smiling, laughing, holding your hand, nodding. When you spoke of dreams of destiny of the future, you felt stirring in your spirit. And yet beneath that surface, beneath the warmth and familiarity, something darker was hiding. You felt it at times, didn't you? The subtle shift in their eyes when you succeeded. The odd silence after your breakthrough. The strange discomfort you couldn't explain whenever your soul began to shine. That was not paranoia. That was discernment. And now, in the light of what has been removed, the truth can finally be spoken. They were a snake. Not the kind that bites openly. Not the kind that hisses or strikes in the obvious ways. No, this one was far more dangerous because they came dressed in loyalty. They studied you not to protect, but to predict. They memorized your light only so they could learn how to dim it. And while they never raised a weapon, they raised their words behind your back. Their compliments were crafted with hidden venom. Their presence, though comforting at times, was laced with quiet curses, disguised as concern. C.S. Lewis in the Screwtape Letters wrote, "The safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope soft underfoot without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts." This insight reveals the insidious nature of their influence. Their subtle sabotage was a gradual slope, unmarked by overt malice, but designed to lead you away from your destiny. Their cloaked betrayal disguised as loyalty was a quiet danger that your discernment detected, and heaven's intervention has now severed, ensuring your path remains clear. This was not a friend. This was a spirit of monitoring, of containment, of delay. Someone assigned not by heaven, but by spiritual opposition, to get close, to blend in, to speak delays into your promise in the form of subtle sabotage. And they did it so well that even you began to doubt your intuition. You excused the signs. You gave chances. You labeled betrayal as brokenness and loyalty as love. But make no mistake, they were never for you. They were not walking beside you to lift you. They were there to anchor you just enough to keep you from flying. They didn't fear your fall, they feared your rise, because your light reminded them of everything they were afraid to become. And so their mission was never to support, it was to contain, to confuse, to delay. Now that they're gone, the fog is lifting. You're beginning to see clearly what your spirit sensed all along. The moments you second-guessed yourself, the times you shared your vision and felt it wilt in the air between you, that was not love. That was spiritual interference. A counterfeit connection sent to study you but never to celebrate you. But no more. The mask has fallen. The role they played is over. Heaven has exposed what your heart was not yet ready to confront. You are free. And now clarity will flood in like light through a shattered veil. There are moments in the life of the chosen when heaven must intervene, not with warning, not with chaos, but with quiet authority. What just happened in your life was not random. It was divine execution. The person who recently slipped out of your life was not taken from you to punish you. They were removed because the calling on your life could no longer coexist with their presence. Their energy, though familiar, had become incompatible with your assignment. Their words, though kind in appearance, carried the vibration of control, jealousy, and subtle interference. And heaven knew what you couldn't yet admit. Your purpose was bleeding under the weight of their access. They were not merely slowing you down. They were silently sabotaging what was sacred. Every time you shared a dream with them, the dream dimmed. Every time you confided in them, clarity became confusion. And every time you extended grace, their spirit took more ground than it deserved. Not because you were weak, but because you loved purely. You hoped deeply. You believed that loyalty would awaken loyalty, but what you didn't see was that your love was not healing them, it was enabling them. And your breakthrough, the very thing you've prayed for, was being delayed, not by lack of faith, but by misplaced trust. Heaven saw the pattern. And when it became clear that you were still trying to fix what was never formed in truth, heaven did what you couldn't. It removed them. Not with drama, not with exposure, but with silence. That's why it ended quietly. That's why there was no grand finale, just distance, silence, disconnection. Because heaven didn't want to destroy you in the process of rescuing you. You were already tired, already conflicted. A loud separation would have shattered what little strength you had left. So God ended it without sound to preserve your peace and protect your momentum. This removal was not your loss. It was your liberation. It wasn't rejection. It was redirection. What you felt as abandonment was actually alignment. This was not just about closing a chapter. It was about unlocking the next one without contamination. You were praying for open doors, for clarity, for movement. What you didn't realize was that before heaven could release those things, it had to subtract what was blocking them. You asked for breakthrough, and breakthrough came, just not in the form you expected. Now, you must understand this. Their removal is final. The severing has been done in the spirit. Their name may echo, their memory may linger, but the access has been revoked. They were not just removed from your path, they were removed from your timeline. Because what's coming next for you is too holy to share with someone whose heart was never truly aligned. And if you try to reopen what God has shut, you won't just invite pain, you'll invite delay all over again. You didn't lose someone loyal. You lost someone strategic. You didn't lose love. You lost manipulation. And heaven is not asking you to grieve this disconnection. It's asking you to honor it. This separation is not a wound. It is a seal. It marks the beginning of your rise without interference, your alignment without confusion, your future without compromise. The snake has been removed, and your destiny has been cleared to proceed. Long before the separation occurred, your spirit already knew. It may not have had words, but it had signals, subtle, repetitive, persistent. You felt it in the atmosphere. When they walked into the room, the sudden heaviness, the drop in your energy, the quiet tightening in your chest. Your body, your intuition, your very soul had been warning you, not with fear but with discernment. What you felt wasn't paranoia, it was protection trying to speak. There were moments you couldn't explain, like how exhausted you felt after spending time with them, or why your thoughts felt clouded whenever you tried to make progress around them. You second-guessed yourself more when they were near. Your confidence shrank, your light dimmed. You'd share your joy, and their silence would answer louder than any words. You'd speak your plans, and their forced smile would leave your spirit unsettled. The signs weren't always loud, but they were always present. And yet you ignored them. You dismissed your own intuition, labeling it as overthinking or emotional sensitivity. You convinced yourself to stay loyal, to be patient, to love them through the unease. But your soul knew. It never lied. Every time you tried to silence that inner nudge, something within you grew more restless. Because deep down you were in the presence of someone who wanted your light but didn't want your rise. Their energy was familiar but not aligned. Their actions were small, but their influence was heavy. They could sit in your presence without saying a word and still shift your entire atmosphere. And no matter how much you tried to adjust, the feeling never left the one that said something is not right here. That feeling wasn't fear, it was foresight. It was divine instinct calling you to attention. C.S. Lewis in The Problem of Pain wrote, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." This truth reflects the signals your spirit received. The heaviness, the unease, the restlessness were God's shouts through your pain, rousing you to discern the danger in their presence. Your intuition was not a flaw, but his megaphone guiding you toward the liberation that heaven has now enacted. Now that they're gone, that weight has lifted. The fog in your mind is clearing. You're beginning to feel more like yourself again, not because something new has arrived, but because something false has finally left. Your joy feels authentic again. Your space feels brighter. You are sleeping deeper, thinking clearer, and hearing your own spirit again without interruption. This is your confirmation. You didn't imagine it. You weren't too emotional. You were discerning something spiritual. And now that the interference is gone, your soul is breathing freely again. You are no longer in the presence of someone who secretly competed while pretending to care. You are no longer surrounded by confusion disguised as connection. You are now standing in a space that has been spiritually cleared for your next season. And that clarity you feel, that peace settling in your bones, that is what truth feels like once deception is removed. Now that the weight has lifted and the fog has cleared, you must understand this one truth without compromise. You cannot go back. The door that heaven closed was not meant to swing open again. This was not a pause. It was a severing. It was not a cooling off. It was a cleansing. To return now, to entertain what has already been removed, would not only delay your destiny, it would grieve your protection. They may reach out again, not because they've changed, but because they've lost access. And what most people miss is this: regret is not the same as repentance. Regret is discomfort when the plan didn't work. Repentance is transformation, but few choose it. Do not be deceived by soft words, familiar memories, or the sudden shift in tone. The snake doesn't always strike. Sometimes it returns quietly, wearing the skin of sincerity, whispering apologies it doesn't truly carry. They may send messages. They may speak your name again. They may act confused about the distance, but do not mistake their confusion for concern. They are not confused about what they did. They are only surprised that you finally responded with silence, because silence is something they cannot manipulate. They thrived when you explained yourself, defended your position, tried to salvage the bond. But this time, there is no defense to make. There is nothing to salvage. What was severed was never sacred. You owe them no response. Not because you are bitter, but because you are healed. Not because you are unkind, but because you are now aligned. Every time you reopen what God has closed, you invite the same confusion back into your life, wrapped in slightly different words, but fueled by the same broken spirit. You cannot afford to relive that cycle. You've come too far. You've gained too much clarity, and what's coming next is too precious to be risked. This is your warning, not from fear, but from foresight. If you return to the energy that drained you, the delay begins again. Your destiny does not exist in reverse. Your healing does not live in memory. What heaven removed, it removed because your spirit is now stepping into sacred territory. This next chapter is too holy for divided hearts and hidden motives. Let them wonder. Let them miss your presence. Let them feel the absence of your light, but do not go back to remind them of what they lost. Your silence is not cruelty. It is closure. It is your final act of protection, and heaven smiles upon it. If they appear again, remember, their remorse may be real, but it may also be a performance. Their emotions may be loud, but that doesn't mean they've changed. The snake knows how to cry. The deceiver knows how to beg. But you, chosen one, now know how to discern, and this time you will not be moved. Let the door stay shut. Let the healing remain intact. Let the peace you finally found become your new standard. What God has removed must not be reintroduced, not even through memory, not even through guilt. This is not just self-protection. This is spiritual obedience. You are not walking away from love. You are walking away from deception. And what's ahead will prove that the separation was never a loss. It was the beginning of your true freedom. Now that the snake has been removed, The atmosphere around your life is no longer resisting the flow of heaven. What was once clogged with confusion is now wide open. What once felt delayed now carries the wind of divine speed. You may not see it fully yet, but a release has begun, one that was impossible as long as they remained near. Their absence has created space for what heaven had long been ready to deliver. Doors that seemed sealed will begin to open. Opportunities that once slipped through your fingers will start to return, only this time without conditions, without confusion, without compromise. Conversations will feel lighter. Connections will feel genuine. Your soul will finally feel safe again, not just with people, but within itself. Because what was once draining you spiritually is no longer there to corrupt your frequency. You'll notice that your energy begins to regenerate, not gradually but with acceleration. Your sleep will deepen. Your thoughts will become sharper. The fog that once clouded your purpose will lift like smoke after a storm. This is not a coincidence. This is restoration. This is heaven proving that removal is often the first step to release. And not only are you being restored, but something new is being prepared. Better relationships, clearer guidance, true alignment. You are entering a space where people will no longer require you to shrink to keep their comfort. You will no longer have to explain your worth, soften your light, or dull your intuition. The ones who come next are not coming to compete. They're coming to contribute. They're not threatened by your rise. They're called to rise with you. This is the divine exchange. For every counterfeit that fell away, a true connection is being sent. For every word cursed behind your back, a door is opening in your favor. For every seed of love that was rejected or misused, a harvest is now growing sevenfold pure and protected. You did not miss out. You were not bypassed. You were being preserved. And now that the weight is gone, heaven can move freely around you again. The blockage is gone. The delay has been broken. You're not stepping into blessing by accident. You're stepping into it by design. The favor was always there, but the container had to be cleansed. That's what their removal accomplished. And now, what's coming will arrive without resistance. So when you feel the shift, when your spirit begins to dance for no reason, when ideas come faster, when peace settles in rooms where pain once lingered, know this: you are not imagining it. You are entering it. This is what it feels like to be aligned again. This is what it feels like when heaven says, "Now we can begin." Healing rarely announces itself with trumpets. It arrives quietly, humbly, like a whisper in the dark, yet its presence changes everything. And now, beloved, healing is settling over you like a divine garment. Not partial healing, not emotional bandages. Fullness, wholeness, completion. You'll begin to notice the difference not just in what you feel, but in what you no longer feel. Their name won't sting anymore. Their memory won't pull at your peace. Their absence will no longer echo like a wound. It will feel like distance, like something that has drifted far away, no longer able to reach you. That's how you'll know the soul tie has broken and the spiritual weight they carried is no longer yours to bear. You'll walk into spaces where you once felt small and now feel strong. You'll revisit old conversations in your mind, but this time without bitterness, just clarity. What once confused you now makes perfect sense. What once hurt now feels like confirmation. The questions that haunted you will no longer need answers because the truth has already settled where the pain once lived. You no longer need closure from them. Heaven already closed the chapter. Even your body will bear witness to the restoration. The tension in your chest will dissolve. Your breath will deepen. Your nervous system will stop bracing for their mood, their reactions, their presence. Because what once hovered like a storm around your soul is now gone, and the quiet you feel is not absence. It is peace. It is safety. It is spiritual air returning to lungs that forgot how to breathe. And in this stillness you will rediscover yourself, the version of you that was buried under performance, under pleasing, under pretending to be okay. You will laugh without fear of being resented for it. You will speak without editing your joy to avoid their jealousy. You will wake up without the heaviness of wondering how they might twist your light into something threatening. And in that freedom, you will realize they did not just walk away. You were delivered. This is what complete healing feels like. Not the absence of memory, but the absence of pain. Not amnesia, but authority. Not erasure, but elevation. You still remember what happened, but now you remember from a place of strength, not survival. You've shifted. You've grown. You've awakened. And the one they tried to contain no longer fits the mold they thought they could control. Let that truth settle in your soul. You are not broken, you are reborn. And no one, no shadow, no snake, no silence from the past can unmake what heaven has just healed. Now that the weight has lifted and your healing has taken root, what comes next is not a slow rebuild, it is a sudden rise. Heaven does not waste time once interference is removed. You are not stepping into a season of recovery. You are stepping into a season of acceleration. Everything that felt held back, blocked, or delayed is now being released with force. Not because you forced it, but because you are finally aligned enough to receive it. This is your appointed acceleration. Not earned through striving, but granted through obedience. The moment you chose not to return to what heaven removed, the gates opened. And what's coming won't trickle in, it will flood. Divine connections, long-awaited answers, supernatural provision, fresh revelation, all of it is moving now because there is no longer resistance standing between you and the will of God. You are going to notice how effortlessly things begin to align. Conversations will flow. The right people will find you. Resources will appear just in time. Your creativity will ignite without exhaustion, and your vision will stretch without fear. Doors that were once locked will not just open, they will swing wide at your arrival. And you'll realize it wasn't that you were unworthy of the blessing. It was that the blessing needed to wait for the room to be spiritually safe. The one who left created that room. Their absence made space for your inheritance. What once felt like subtraction was heaven making room for overflow. They were not just delaying your growth, they were endangering your grace. And now that they are gone, what has been stored up for you can finally be delivered. There will be moments where the speed of your elevation feels surreal. You'll wonder how things changed so fast. But do not doubt it. This was always your timeline. It was just held until you were free from the soul tie that threatened to corrupt it. Now every area that was once slow will begin to move. Every seed that sat dormant will begin to sprout. Every part of your identity that had to shrink to accommodate someone else's insecurity will begin to expand in full glory. This is the rise. This is the shift. And nothing can stop it. Not jealousy, not memory, not even your former self. You are not who you were when they met you. You are not who you were when they walked away. You are now walking with the momentum of divine timing, and there is no force on earth that can delay what heaven has already scheduled. So move forward boldly. Don't hold back. Don't second guess. This is your moment not to survive, but to soar. What the snake tried to sabotage has been secured by divine hands. And now your name is being spoken in rooms you've never entered because heaven is positioning you without permission from those who once tried to contain you. Let it happen. Let the rise unfold. You are not behind. You are precisely on time. By now, something inside of you has awakened, not the version of you that struggled to be understood or fought to be accepted, but the one who was always hidden beneath the weight of false connections, the real you. And as the dust of separation settles, as the silence of healing surrounds you, one truth now stands unshaken. You were chosen, not selected by people, not appointed by popularity, but handpicked by heaven, chosen not because you were loud, but because you were faithful in silence, not because you always got it right, but because your heart never gave up on the light. You were chosen because you carried something rare, something the enemy feared and the snake envied, and everything that tried to break you, distract you, or dim you was sent to interrupt that truth. But it didn't succeed, because you're still here, still rising, still glowing with a light that no betrayal could extinguish. That's how you know you're chosen, you survived what was designed to silence you. And instead of shrinking, you became sharper. Instead of fading, you became fire. Every spiritual attack only refined the anointing. Every hidden enemy only revealed the strength of your calling. You were not buried, you were planted. The evidence of your calling is not just in your resilience, but in the way heaven fought for you when you didn't know how to fight for yourself. The separation was proof. The exposure of the snake was proof. The peace that now fills your atmosphere, that is proof. You are no longer questioning what happened. You are now walking in the understanding of why it had to happen. And in that understanding, your authority has awakened. From this day forward, you will walk differently. Not in fear, not in fragility, but in divine confidence. You will protect your peace like treasure. You will guard your energy like a sacred flame. You will no longer explain your growth to those who never clapped for your healing. You will no longer water down your discernment to be palatable to those who preferred your silence. You are no longer available to what drains you. You are fully present for what aligns with your purpose. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them watch from afar. You owe no explanations. The light on your life will speak louder than their whispers. Your peace will say what your mouth no longer needs to. And your eyes will answer every question they ever asked behind your back. The same ones who misunderstood you will witness you becoming everything they said you'd never be. But you won't rise for revenge. You'll rise because it's time. This is your confirmation. You are sealed. You are covered. You are moving under divine order now. The snake is gone. The burden is lifted. The acceleration has begun. And this is what it looks like when a chosen one finally steps into what they were born to carry. You didn't just survive the betrayal. You transcended it. You didn't just overcome the silence. You found your true voice inside it. And now you will no longer shrink to fit. You will no longer wait for permission. You will no longer trade your fire for false peace. You were chosen. You are rising. And your future is unfolding with a clarity that only heaven could orchestrate. This is the beginning of your true becoming. Walk forward, eyes open, spirit grounded, heart guarded. Your best chapter begins now, and no snake, no shadow, no sabotage can ever reach it again. And now, chosen one, before you take another step into the light of this new chapter, pause, breathe. Let your spirit absorb what heaven has just revealed, because what has been spoken over you is not just confirmation, it is commissioning. You are no longer waiting. You are now walking. And with that, it is time to seal this shift in prayer. Father of light, keeper of destiny, revealer of hidden things, I come before you not with fear but with reverence, not with doubt but with surrender. Thank you for the removal I didn't fully understand but desperately needed. Thank you for severing ties I was too loyal to cut. Thank you for exposing what I could no longer ignore. You saw what I didn't. You moved when I hesitated. And now I stand in the freedom you created for me. I declare that the door is shut, not out of pride, but out of obedience, not to reject a person, but to protect a purpose. What you have removed, I will not resurrect. What you have closed, I will not reopen. I trust you more than I trust my feelings. I trust your timing more than I trust my logic. Cover me now, O Lord, in divine discernment. Let my spirit remain alert. Let my heart stay clean. Let my steps be ordered. Teach me how to protect my peace like it is sacred. Show me how to guard my light like it is royal. Keep every snake far from my gates, seen or unseen, familiar or disguised. Let every blessing that was delayed be released without resistance. Let the floodgates open. Let the right voices find me. Let the pure connections align. Let my hands be ready to receive what has been prepared in silence. I declare no more delays, no more distractions, no more deception. I forgive who I must, release what I must, and rise into who I was always called to be. I reclaim my time. I reclaim my voice. I reclaim my space. I will not bow to manipulation. I will not shrink to soothe envy. I will not make room for false loyalty. From this day forward, I walk with fire in my spirit and peace in my chest. May every room I enter be cleansed. May every word I speak be anointed. May every assignment I carry be fulfilled with excellence. And may my life healed, elevated, sealed, be living proof that I was chosen not by man but by you, in the name of divine truth, by the authority of heaven, and in alignment with sacred purpose. Amen.